Ferrari are gearing up for Lewis Hamilton's arrival, where he is set to launch his first outing in a Ferrari car in the next 10 days. Now, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how Ferrari and Lewis Hamilton do start off their relationship. We know that Ferrari are going to release their car on the 19th of February, just the day after the official public event at London's O2 Arena, which Formula One are hosting this year. Now, before we even get to the 19th of February, when the 2025 car is released to the public, we're going to see Lewis Hamilton drive in that 2022 Ferrari in a series of tests across the course of January and February to get himself up to speed, not just with his new environment of a car, steering wheel, but also to get up to date with his new engineers. We spoke just a few days ago about how Lewis Hamilton is going to be working with Riccardo Ademi, who is going to be a really, really important figure for Lewis Hamilton over the course of the next 3 years. Obviously, if the relationship goes well, Lewis Hamilton could potentially change his race engineer, but we'll have to wait and see how that one goes. Now, as they're gearing up for the insertion of Lewis Hamilton into their Ferrari cockpit, we've already heard that they've potentially moved their seat position for the upcoming campaign to aid Lewis Hamilton in his adaptation to the Ferrari car. Obviously, spending time at Mercedes over the course of the last few years, he spoke about how difficult it has been with the seat position being different, and it hasn't really gone to plan for Lewis Hamilton in those Ferrari cars over the last few years, especially last season, where he was beaten by his teammate in qualifying head-to-head and over points in that season. Now, ultimately, we've spoke a lot over the course of the last few weeks and months about the caveats to that, but it's important to see that Ferrari are making changes for their 2025 car in line with what Lewis Hamilton has spoke about previously in regards to the Mercedes car and things which Ferrari may have done wrong over the course of those years. Now, what we also have to talk about is there is also going to be adjustments made to the carbon box, which is for the gearbox, which is going to allow better flexibility for weight distribution. Now, this obviously comes with Loic Serra's guidance, a person who was a massive, massive part of Lewis Hamilton's time at Mercedes and obviously that dominant spell which Mercedes sought after. Now, with obviously Serra's guidance, Ferrari are going to be desperate to end their F1 title drought. They haven't won a title since 2008. They haven't won a driver's title since, I believe, 2007. And obviously, they just narrowly missed out last season, just 13 points behind McLaren. And if you go back, there was a mid-season dip for Charles Leclerc, which in my personal opinion is what cost them the Constructors' title. Obviously, I don't believe Charles Leclerc or Lando Norris were ever in for the drivers, but it's one of those things. Now, we spoke about Loic Serra and the changes that Ferrari are potentially seeing. Now, obviously, Loic Serra will have a massive, massive influence on Ferrari for 2025 and going forward. And it's going to be the important figure for Lewis Hamilton's revival. We've already spoke about the changes that they're going to make to the suspension, which is all going to be interlinked with the Pirelli tyres, which the Formula One cars have to use. We saw over the course of 2024 and even years previous that Ferrari have struggled sometimes with it was one end where they were too hard on the tyres, but then last season they were a little bit too tight and a little bit too kind on their tyres and couldn't get the temperature in comparison to their rivals in McLaren and Red Bull. Now, Mercedes, they just had masses of issues with tyres across the course of the season, and that's something which I think Lewis Hamilton will be able to help with. Now, obviously, it meant in races that Ferrari had a greater tyre degradation with their rear tyres, and it was very difficult to see Ferrari in that manner where they were only really able to compete for practically half of a stint, essentially, and that is one of the major disadvantages which they saw. And it also saw a disadvantage to their qualifying pace, because if you're looking to be in winning ways with Lewis Hamilton, with Charles Leclerc at Ferrari, especially championship winning ways, you have to be able to qualify well and race well. And ultimately, that's what we saw mainly from McLaren and Red Bull last season. No matter what happened, they always seemed to be in the right places for qualifying. They might not have ended the race in the right places sometimes, but ultimately, they had the ability to finish really well in qualifying. And this is where obviously Serra, who joined from Mercedes, is targeting those areas which are going to impact the likes of the torsion bar, the shock absorbers, and how that it makes the car interact with the sensitive Pirelli tyres. We spoke about it time and time again over previous years, where these Pirelli tyres, ultimately, you have to be really kind on them, because if you're not, they're gone. They're dead. It's over. And we saw it when Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz battled. I think it was the Las Vegas GP. They battled, were right behind George Russell for a long period of time. They then had a little bit of a battle, and then Charles Leclerc when it ended up 10, 12 seconds behind Russell, which then ended up giving Lewis Hamilton the opportunity to finish in second position. Now, obviously, Ferrari will be keen to have balance between their qualifying and race pace, but they need to be able to find a balance that suits both drivers, whether that be Lewis Hamilton, whether it be Charles Leclerc, because that's what they need going forward. They need two drivers in the fight. If you can have Lewis Hamilton in P4, Charles Leclerc in P2, Hamilton on pole, Leclerc on P2, you have a better chance of winning races, and that's obviously something which will be spoke about across the course of the season. I'm going to do my own personal ratings for each driver across the course of each weekend, which we'll talk about over the course of the season. We'll do review videos on a Monday after each race weekend, because I think it's really important to discuss how Formula One is moving forward and how the teams are moving forward, because it's a massive, massive thing for Ferrari and for each team. You look at someone like Liam Lawson, you look at Isaac Hadjar, you look at Gabriel Bortoleto, you look at Ollie Behrman, Kimi Antonelli, who are all stepping up, Jack Doohan as well, stepping up to big teams for themselves, and it's a big adjustment for Lawson into the Red Bull. It's going to be a massive adjustment for Kimi into the Mercedes, Doohan into the Alpine, obviously got that Abu Dhabi drive. So there's some massive things to keep a note of for 2025. The big one is obviously going to be Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari, but we're going to have to see what does happen across the course of the next few weeks and next few months as we head towards testing, and obviously that all-important first race of the season. Now, that first race is in Australia. It's going to be a difficult one. In a few days' time, we're going to talk all about the rookies. Which rookie do you think is going to perform best? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, hit the like button as well to stay tuned for all of my latest Formula One content. Make sure you go and follow me over on TikTok. I've got some big content coming out over there as well, and that's where you can keep more up to date with me. So let's see what is going to happen in 2025. Will Ferrari be challengers? Let me know down below. I'll catch you in my next video.